Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing? Thumbs up to those who have their cameras on. Would love your cameras on because we are going to have a lot of interaction today going through our program, and I'm going to want a little bit of feedback from all of you, especially as we go through our slides, the art and science of pricing in today's market. You are going to love the added updates since the last time was here. I was back here at the end of May presenting this same topic. We have now updated the format due to some new findings, and I'm going to want your input, dialogue, and interaction with me as we go through some of these updates, because a lot of your feedback will become super important to the process. So, by the way, quick show of hands or in the chat, who was in the mastermind yesterday in Dallas Metro North? Okay, we've got a couple. I love it. All right, we got Josh over there. We got people in the background. Just real quick, oh, I see some thumbs up. Any feedback that you can give us? I know we blew some minds around the AI, and by the way, we're working with leaders already to kind of taper that down to spoon feeding scenarios in which we can get that information dialed in and worked into your worlds. But just any feedback since you've been back 24 hours later. We had the coach panel, the AI presentation, a little bit of masterminding, live coaching.
Fritz, I've got feedback. I loved it all, and for somebody that has always called myself tech challenged, I've already reframed that to I'm learning new things every day in AI. I'm learning new technology, and I love it. It was certainly drinking out of a fire hose. It feels like you're
Yes.
a beginner again. And what was great about it, though, there were lots of options to choose from in the AI that he gave us, and we certainly, having so many options presented, gave every one of us the ability to start with the one that
Yeah.
appealed to us, and then have something to build on, to know where to go next when we're ready. So I kind of did like that it was so expansive.
Yeah.
And as far as the coaching afterwards, love that you put the panel together, really creating the opportunity for people to find where their growth opportunities are and to connect with the right person to take them to that next level. So thank you for all.
Well, and listen, know that we're here for you. And I was sitting here with the AI stuff, reading the audio. I mean, I could feel the energy from the back of the room. And had we not expanded your thinking, we wouldn't have ultimately done what we needed to do. Like, oh, hey, yeah, I got this down, we're good. And if you all left feeling that way, then we didn't do our job to kind of expand the process. And so I think the fact that we did kind of get mind blown, now we can come back as coaches, as support to the Go Network, start to break this thing down into smaller bite-sized pieces, mastermind groups, more dialogue within the market centers. I think as all of you share the tools that you are using and having breakthroughs will bring the next person along. So I think the more we can get together within the market centers, maybe even more at a regional level, we're going to be fine. And Jen, to your point, we got to change this mindset around the technology. And please know you're one day further along than you were yesterday. I would be telling clients immediately, I am an AI driven agent utilizing cutting edge techniques to help you win the day, client. When do you want to get together? Because guess what? Yesterday was day one. So start talking about it. You're going to separate yourself from the competition immediately. All right, good to see everyone. Again, just with the timeliness and what we're going to cover today, I'm going to jump into this. For those of you who were here back in May, it's a different presentation today, and we are now pulling market stats. I thought I'd keep it all Flower Mound. You are going to see the last 7 days market stats in Flower Mound that we are going to be discussing, role-playing, and integrating into your dialogues around getting prices right in any of your markets. So those 7 stats we're going to look at, though, are going to be very connected to the Flower Mound area, since we were just there yesterday. Shelby, am I good to start sharing?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
That sounded like a
I didn't
Almost
get the
down.
second one. I didn't get slide 10, but the
Okay,
main
no
one.
worries. No worries. All right. So the art and science of pricing in today's market, I literally built this presentation back in January as I was starting to see and get demands from people. Hey, we need something around pricing. Clearly, we've been in a shifting market, and yet I think it ratcheted up a little bit where inventory was really starting to sit. We had higher interest rates. So what you are going to see today, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about it, is definitely going to be mastering the numbers, influencing the narrative, but the key addition is understanding the client at a deeper level. What I have unpacked in the last 7 months is the importance of the seller's impact in how pricing is embraced, the commitment to getting it right in the marketplace. And we were missing that step. We were giving them a lot of local economist stuff. We were missing the urgency and motivation of the client. You're going to see that in today's presentation. A little bit about me. God, I hate to say this every time I go through this slide. I'm coming up on 40 years in the business. Licensed in 1987. Agent, sold for probably 12, 13 years, got into leadership, and really, if never left it, was running a office for a small independent company. Found coaching, fell in love with coaching, now roughly 23 years in the coaching space, and new as of February for the coaching Nexus, Smokey Garrett's coaching arm of his companies. And it's just really been an exciting endeavor. And of course, getting out to the local market center, especially in the marketplaces like New Mexico and in Dallas and the surrounding area, and getting to meet great people like you is truly a highlight of everything we're doing. And hopefully you're going to see a little bit of that passion just around the topic of pricing today. So let's look at the focus of today's conversation. We're going to understand the market shift, the demands of new pricing strategy. It is a ever-changing landscape. We're going to master the skills of becoming the local economist. I'm going to give you those 7 stats again for Flower Mound today. We're going to look at the percentage change, how you weave those into your scripting in your client updates. We're going to share again that listing evaluation strategy. I shared that chart yesterday. For those that weren't there yesterday, we'll have that download available for you. Critical in understanding which listings you're going to get paid on, likely which ones you're not. And then looking at the final piece, and I opened with this, learning the scripting and connecting with the client to understand their urgency. That is going to be the new mantra of today's presentation. When we understand the client's urgency, we can make a better business decision in how we partner with that client. Okay, now, I forgot to remind everyone, I believe in Gary's strategy around any and all presentations. It's called interrupters rule. And Shelby, my great partner wingman here, if you have a question about anything we're covering, please raise your hand. We'll deal with it in the moment so that we don't forget about it down the road. So please interrupt me if we've got questions. Now, the old market circumstances. And when I say old, I started to see this market begin shifting as we entered summer of 2022. Okay, 2022 summer, I'm like, something's happening here. How did I know that? Because I monitored all of the 7 stats of all of my clients from all over the country. And I just could see something was changing. I'm going to give you those skills, or at least draw your attention, put a spotlight on some of those skills. But I was seeing it in the summer of 22, and then it's continued on. Now we've adapted a little bit, but I think when you look at from midsummer 22 to currently end of summer 25, in those 3 years, we are now seeing kind of the weight of all of that shift. Throw the interest rates in there, some economic issues, and you have what you have. So the old market circumstances is kind of leading up to that 22 and going into 23 marketplace. So see if any of these resonate with you. You go on a listing appointment, you list the property, you only had to be close to the market value. You put it in the MLS, within 48 hours, you had multiple offers. The property sold for more than it was listed. The seller is thrilled. The agent is a hero. Your most important skill was in negotiations. I'd get, on a coaching call, hey, how you doing? Oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. Really? What are you overwhelmed with? Oh, I took that new listing. I've got 30 offers. That sounds like a good problem. What are you complaining about? I don't know where to start. Some are good here, some are other in their terms and conditions, and the seller likes this buyer. Negotiations became the mountain we had to climb over every sale. Now, I think we'd all take that market in a heartbeat now, but again, typical human nature, we kind of complain about what we wish would be the improvement of the market we're in, when in reality, that might be the market we need to embrace. So I'm just putting some perspective out there. Negotiations was the biggest skill we needed in the market we left. The focus of the CMA was on pendings and solds. And ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear, because I've been in 3 of these. We were begging and pleading with listing agents, can you tell me what you sold it for? It's still pending. No, I can't share with you what we, until it closes. We can't share that information. Please, can you tell me? Can you give me a hint? Because we needed to know what that new level of the market is. It was moving so fast. That was the old market. Now, I didn't put the last one in here yet. What was the pressure on commissions in this old market set of circumstances? Was it up or was it down? Commissions. What direction were they headed when we had all of this going our way? Overbids, 72 hours in the market. We didn't even have to get the flyers done. What pressure was on us as listing agents? Yes, Jen.
Oh, I was just saying up. I was answering your question.
Okay. So let me set the context. For some, it could have been up, but we also had a lot of competition from agents buying for those listings. What I was hearing in my office was slightly different than that. And you guys tell me, were you guys watching commission rates go up with all of this I mean, I don't know. I had a lot of agents telling me once it sold over full price, they were saying, what did you do for me? So Jen, if you saw up, that's great. Did anyone else experience, though, downward pressure on commissions? Let me come off of my share screen. Anyone experience that?
In our market, they just basically stayed the same.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. When the market gets hot like this, what do we see happening with discount brokerages? Do they enter the market or do they leave the market?
They enter the market.
Yeah, they enter the market big time. So now listen, this is all regionally based. So if you didn't see that, count yourself lucky. I'm going to roll back the clock a little bit. There was a company way back in the mid 90s called Help You Sell. They came rushing into the market. Agents were jumping ship left and right, going to these discount brokerages because they didn't offer a lot of things. The market made their value proposition viable, and they were driving commissions into the ground. So more often than not, when the skill set of the agent is reduced, we're going to see commissions following. And there was a lot of these old market circumstances that were causing us to take that on the chin. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that one in. In more cases than not, old market circumstances, there was downward pressure on commissions. If you didn't see that, count yourself lucky. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the current market. Now, I'm going to pause here for a minute. If you are getting frustrated, and by the way, I saw a little bit of it in the room yesterday, I really need to stress the fact you might be holding on to last market's circumstances. You're not letting them go. Look at that list that I just went through. If you are getting frustrated, you are likely hung up on one of these things, one of these points. For someone that's been in the business for almost 40 years, that is an abnormal market. Now, we took a poll of everyone sitting in the room yesterday. 2/3 of the room got into the business in the last 10 years. You think this is normal because you don't know any different. I look at this and go, wow, that was the strangest market I've ever seen. It went on and on and on and on. It didn't go through that normal 6-7 year cycle. This was like a 12-year run. It started turning in about 2009. So what I want to go back to is how you are feeling about the market that we're currently in. You might be holding on to some of those old market circumstances. And I'm here to tell you, this is not normal. Now, let's look at what is normal. Pricing now is a core skill. We don't just run a CMA, like literally, this is a core skill that you separate yourself from the competition with. Next, features, conditions, and location matter more than ever. I told the story of Beth Ryder, one of the more powerful and skilled pricing agents, some of the best I've ever seen. She had a property back to a yellow line street. It was just an entry street into the community. She said that line's now worth a $30,000 to $50,000 reduction. You got to know that that location has that kind of impact. I don't want to back to a busy street. Well, it's not that busy. It's got a yellow line. And by the way, it was sitting. What is an extra bedroom, an extra bath, a pool, a cul-de-sac lot? These are the things you're going to get paid to know. And that's why when we get to the stats, I'm going to give you that edge and that leverage to be that good at understanding the influences of the market and being a great CMA preparer and presenter. Let's keep going. Strong CMA and listing presentation skills are now critical. You may be making a decision in the current market if you're taking that listing based on the pricing discussion. And that's why we're going to get into the urgency of the client. You must become the local economist. The 7 stats will get you there. Walking away from an overpriced listing equals a smart strategy. Now, is the woman that was sitting in the front row right to my left as I was facing the audience that had that overpriced listing and was talking about the strategies of it's not about the price anymore? What else could we do? Are they on today? Maybe not. For those of you that were in the room, you remember that conversation. When we came back to the coaches panel, does anyone remember what Michelle Ozimi said she would have done had she gone on that listing? Does anyone remember that little exchange? She said, I probably wouldn't have taken that listing. Now, we are not used to as salespeople uttering those words. The business-minded agent adapted to this current market will say those words often. But I'm going to give you the strategies today where you can say them with confidence, knowing that you're walking away with something that's just going to suck your time, energy, and money versus invest it into a client you can get paid on. We'll go through that outline. Mastering the skill of connecting with the client's urgency is absolutely paramount. Mastering the skill of connecting with the client's urgency. This is the new addition to this presentation since January. And I've been watching the agents that are winning in this current market, and that is their absolute superpower these days. And I'm going to give you the outline to go do that and do it at a high level. All right. Now, current market condition, oh my God, it's taking so long for homes to sell. I'm having to do all this extra marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, The agent that thrives in this market will get paid more for their skills. This is not a fight your way to the bottom of the commission chart to get the deal. Quite frankly, you'll be able to charge more for the most motivated client that wants to sell. All the discount companies start to leave the market. Help You Sell in the mid-90s went away and we never saw them again. So please understand, as we go through these market ups and downs, the professional agent will always have a seat at the table. The highly skilled agent will always have a seat at the table. And for those agents, you will get to name your commission fee. That's the hope you have to hold on to in this current market. And by the way, this is the market that I started in back in 1987. Within a couple of years, that baby turned. The aerospace industry was leaving California. We started to first understand the word short sale. And those were some really tough days to be cutting your teeth as a new agent. And what I came to find, that there's extremes on both ends, but that was kind of more normal than it was abnormal. And if you have not been in the business since, being new in the last 10 years, we got to get an understanding. We got to adopt this current market level of skill sets and approach, and you'll be fine. We always love the great market, but these are the ones that we survive through. Okay, real quick thoughts, comments, input before we get into the strategy piece. I just needed to set the tone of what we came out of and what we're in and going to be in for probably a couple more years. Any comments, thoughts, or questions?
Fritz,
All right. Yep, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the question that I would have, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, clearly this goes with skills and it goes with our conversations. I think the difference between the last market is because they knew that they were likely going to make a lot more than they'd even anticipated. Compensation wasn't as much of a conversation in a lot of instances, right? So
Yep.
they didn't care about paying it. Where now, because things are a lot tighter, that's also a bigger conversation that we have to
Yeah, you bet it is.
have.
And by the way, they're so focused on it, they're kind of like doing the add-on. This is what it's going to cost me, so this is what I need to list at so that I can get, well, that's the conversation we need to unpack and then determine if their urgency is stronger than that math formula. Because it's not about that anymore. Unfortunately, that doesn't apply with the buyer pool. And so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I appreciate what you're saying, but did you want to sell your home or just have it sit on the market and be highly inconvenient to you in the process of getting it sold? So it's a great point, Jen, and I love where you're coming from there. But this whole unpacking of this discussion is what needs to be the new dialogue.
I like what you just said, Fritz, about the pointing out to them the inconvenience of being on the market, especially if you're not in a reason. I think that's a great point to make with them.
Well, and we talked about it at Masterminds yesterday. Listen, that property needs to be showing ready 24/7. What you're going to hear in a couple minutes, average days on market for Flower Mound is 75 days. We don't even know how to say that. What, you mean 75 hours? No, 75 days. Seller, of showing perfect, ready on a moment's notice for your buyer to walk in the door and make an offer on this property. They got to understand that you price it out of the market, you got to be in it for the long haul. And I'll give you some criteria where you may even take that listing, or it may be the reason you don't take that listing. Jen, appreciate the feedback.
Fritz, can I ask you, so
yeah, please.
When you point out to them the 75, averages 75 days on market that you need to be show ready and ready to go, are you also supporting that data with, and look at, these houses did this many price reductions and whatever, so that if we price it right to begin with, you actually could be sold a lot sooner.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, in the context of their urgency, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't care where they were going or when they needed to be there in the hot market. We knew with almost 100% assurance they were going to have multiple offers within a week. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, where are you going to with this boatload of money you just made? Today, where they're going to, why they need to be there is going to be critical before we may even talk about price. That's the superpower strength I'm going to give you all today. And I've got an amazing group of people to take that information to the streets and turn it into gold. Okay, so let's keep going on here. Okay, so here are the 5 skills that we need today. And again, not super like mind-blowing here, but we did move to the top of the sheet, the strategy of seller connection. Understanding the seller's urgency at the deepest level. This is the message I want you to take away from today. I'm going to give you some scripting around that to indoctrinate that into your presentation. And when you start to get clarity on that, the rest of the pricing discussion starts to open up. Of course, we want to also be the local economist. Gary has told us that for years. I'm going to review the 7 market stats, and we're going to role play a little bit of that in the Flower Mound market. We talked about this back in May. We need to also get much better at how we present the CMA portion of our listing presentation, because we used to roll in and just talk about, here's all the things I've done. Here's my stats. Here's why I'm great. I'm number 1 at this. That's all good. But at the end of the day, the CMA now becomes its own standalone presentation, because that first price reduction you're likely getting is at the listing appointment. Of course, mastering a new set of pricing scripts, we're going to give you those again. And then CMA focus is now on actives and potentially on our closed. We may be at the point where you are listing below the last comp. Again, new philosophy, but now our active listings are our competition and our price guidelight. And then, of course, pricing below the last sale might be exactly where the market is going. When we know the client's urgency, many of these topics land differently than the client that just says, I need top dollar. I want to set a new record in the community. Those days are over. May come back, but they're not here now. Let's talk about why you're moving. So these are the skills that we're going to touch on today. All right, so I've been kind of prepping and setting up for this. In today's market, an agent's success hinges on mastering the skill of diving deeper into seller's urgency. A skill we didn't have to have when the market was a rocket ship and multiple offers was the biggest challenge we had. We didn't care about what the seller's motivation or urgency is. It didn't have an influence in what we were doing. The buyers were beating themselves up to impress the seller. Let's go a little bit deeper into how we get this seller urgency piece created. Pre-qualifying the seller is becoming truly something we must master. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the pre-qualification script. There are many of them out there. You could probably Google a handful of them. But what I do want you to understand from today, there are 3 critical questions we must know before we even get to the property. So I'm throwing this into whatever your pre-qualification routine is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Where are you moving to? Why are you moving there? And when do you need to be there? We're not even to the property yet. This may be just booking of the appointment. We haven't even done the CMA yet. Hypothetically, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I would love to come out and meet you this weekend at 5 p.m. So let me ask you something. Where are you moving to? That's exciting. So why are you moving? Oh, a job relocation? Wow, that's super cool. By the way, when do you need to be there? Can't wait to hear more about it. Oh, December 1, we need to be there. Husband starts his new job on that day. Wife starts their new job on that day. This is the opening to the urgency discussion. Now, maybe someone would say, hey, where are you moving to? We're downsizing. Great. Why are you doing that? I don't know. I heard you could get the most money ever in Flower Mound this time of year. Okay. So when would you like this to happen? Whenever I can get the most amount of money. You're going to hear it in the exchange, the level of urgency on a scale. I'm still saying you go on the appointment, but you need to know what the criteria of high urgency versus low urgency is. And you're going to hear it in the dialogue. Oh, I want to net the most amount of money ever. I heard now might be the best time to pull a load of cash out of my property. Okay, good. You might even dig a little bit more into that. But pre-qualification, where are you moving to? Why are you doing it? When you need to be there? You've got to know those 3 answers before you even leave the office. Does that make sense, everyone? And why it's so critical right now. We didn't need to know in the old market, because we were going to back the Brinks truck up to the front door, load it with cash, and they could go wherever they wanted. Today, the Brinks truck is being depleted by all the marketing, hassle, headache, and trauma you all are going through selling something that's an unmotivated seller. Okay, let's keep digging in. So this is the pre-qual. These 3 things, critically important. All right, let's keep going. Now, when we're at the property, let me just make sure I didn't. Okay, so when we're at the property, this is the skill that we need to continue to grow. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're going to repeat the 3 answers to the pre-qualification urgency question series. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you said you were moving to Ohio. Tell me more about that. Oh yeah, it's a job relocation. It's something that, you know, we've been waiting for, and it finally came through, and it's a great honor to be considered for this position, and blah 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 blah. So it's a deeper dive. So it's the 3 questions. I'm going to ask you to go 3 levels deep. I mean, scuba dive into the urgency like you've never scuba dove before. So tell me more about that. What's important about that? That's the follow-up to tell me more about that. And then what's important about that? So what's important about this job in Ohio? Well, it's a new role, and it's really going to create some great opportunities, you know, for my husband, and it's really going to be a groundbreaking situation for the family. Wow. So is the family excited about this? Oh man, we are so excited. So tell me what's exciting about that. Really dig deep. I want you to go 3 levels deep around those 3 questions. Tell me more about that. What's important about that? And you're going to use active listening to keep the conversation appropriate and realistic. And the way we do that, and we're going to talk about some role-playing practice on this stuff, is, wow, that's exciting. So tell me more about that. What's going on? How does everyone feel? You know, do you have any family in Ohio? Have you ever lived there? What do you know about that area? Active listening is the strength of agents that thrive in this market. So it's the 3 pre-qual questions gone 3 deep. If you water ski around this, you will likely buy into the pricing strategy of the seller, not what the market demands. Okay, so let me come off of this real quick. Is everyone tracking with me? I mean, we haven't even talked about price, but your price will be dependent on this. Give me some feedback. How many of you are doing this now? Is this a skill set that you have that's just a natural part of who you are? Is this completely foreign to you? I need to read my audience a little bit.
It's really nice whenever you're talking about their urgency, whenever you start to get excited with them. Like, that's a good
Yes.
connection.
Yes. And we're going to talk about personality styles, because we show up with our personality style, and it sometimes doesn't feel comfortable. We've got to mirror and match the client's personality style. The more excited you can be about their opportunity, the more it connects, and it gives you the right to go deeper. I love that, Josh. Okay, so we're going to keep going here, but I want to go deep on this because when you get this mastered, you're going to be able to see those listings that you can serve and the ones you need to walk away from. Okay, now leaning into understand. This partially talks about what Josh just referenced. Knowing your personality style and knowing the client's personality style become critically important in having success here. Now, I'm going to give you a little sidelight tip. We don't even have a slide made around this. There is a question that I have seen in a lot of pre-qual scripts, and it is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you please describe your house to me? Hey, listen, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Congratulations on the job. I get you need to be there December 1st. And again, what a great opportunity for the family. So let me ask you real quick. I know your model. I know your street. Beautiful house. Can you describe, though, anything that may be updated or upgraded on the inside of the house? This will tell you who their personality style is. So let me give you all a little quiz. What if I said, well, it's 2,480 square feet. We have R9 insulation in the walls. Okay, Josh says, go no further. What's their style?
They're a C.
They're an analytical. You can hear in their words. They're going to tell you what kind of nails are holding the drywall on the wall. Okay, next option. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, great job on the promotion. So tell me real quick, anything going on in the house? Maybe describe it quickly for me. Yeah, it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Is tomorrow going to work? It's a house. Has a roof. Okay.
D.
They're D.
D.
So you can start to adjust your presentation, or you've now got skill sets and awarenesses before you even get out there. Well, it's a beautiful home. You know, we've had all of our holidays here. They've got a big living room, and we put the tree up, and we've got gifts, and you know, the community just it's so safe, and the schools are great. Who are they likely?
And I.
Yeah, probably going to be an amiable. And then the expressive won't stop talking about their home. They may be still on the phone with you 3 days later as you get to their front door. But what it tells you is who you're going to be presenting to. And it may even help you a little bit in asking about where you're going to, why are you going there, and how soon you need to be there. You have to be a little bit craftier, to be honest with you, when you're digging deep with the D. So again, these are skill sets that I want you to start thinking about practicing and rehearsing even before you get there. When you role play this, have your role play partner be a D or a C. You know, analytical, driver, expressive, amiable. Have them role play those circumstances so that when you ask those 3 questions and go 3 deep, you're doing it with the personality style as part of the equation. So we must practice and role play the mastery of this skill. This is what you do on the practice field with other agents. That digging for the urgency, it's absolutely going to be a mandatory requirement in the market that we're in. All right, so let's look at these 7 market sets. Let me stop right now, and I just want to make sure we're checking in, because this is the heart of what I have unpacked in the last 7 months. I need your feedback, though. What are you sensing, feeling, thinking as you hear such a deep dive around this skill set?
I think you're right. And we need to keep hearing it until we believe it and change how we're working.
If you great point. If you start this before you go to the appointment, you are going to be a different agent at the appointment. Guaranteed. And then when you may have to say here and there, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm sorry, I just can't help you given your circumstances, you will at least have unpacked all the details in the closet to be able to justify that comment. And I think for you, knowing it up here makes it easier to say, I just can't help you. And I don't want to misrepresent what I can do. I'm highly successful in this market based on, serving and delivering what you all need. And in this particular case, I can't help you. But keep my card, because the next agent may take your listing and you'll figure out where I'm coming from. And I want to be here to serve you when you're ready. There are just different ways that you can back out gracefully and still maintain that relationship. Okay, let's get back to the 7 market stats, because we need to hear this again. This is how we become the local economist. Okay, new listings on the market, total actives, average days on market, new pendings, new closings, our expireds and withdrawns, and our price reductions. I'm going to ask you to track this weekly for the rest of the time that you're in the industry. And I'm going to show you some examples of how I helped a client develop the muscle to track this regularly. But these 7 market stats set you apart from the competition. You just are going to speak differently. Now take a highly urgent client and these 7 stats. Now we're showing up and we are literally standing apart from the competition as a professional. So here is, let's see, Shelby, this was for Flower Mound.
Yes.
Is Frisco
Yes,
part
I
of
have
Flower
fat
Mound?
fingers. No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it should read Flower Mound. I apologize.
Okay, so we all got in late last night from the mastermind. So these are Flower Mound stats for the last week. Now just watch what I'm going to do with these 7 simple stats that literally came out of your MLS less than an hour ago. We have 231 active listings in Flower Mound. 17 of them are brand new this week. We had 38 go pending, 13 close, 6 expire. Average days on market is 75, and the price reductions were 31 in the last week. So now let's say I'm in a dialogue with the seller. Well, we were kind of thinking about, okay, so Mr. Mrs. Seller, let's just look at what this is telling us. First of all, in 1 week, our market expanded by 7.4%. Over a month, we are tracking for a 30% increase in inventory. Now, all I'm doing is being a consultant. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know you said you needed to be in Ohio on December 1st. If your home didn't sell because we expanded in 1 month by 30%, is that going to cause any challenge for you? I'm letting the stats be the heavy lifter. I don't need to just talk at them. I just need to say, so if this happens, is that going to cause you an issue? Now, if they said, oh my God, we want to move as a family, hey, do you think that the kids and all will stay back? Let's talk about the what if. Let's look at pendings. 38 of 231, 16.5% of this market sold last week. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one of the important roles, especially when you have a deadline of December 1st, and again, moving around the holidays can always be tricky. My job is to make sure that you're part of next month's 16.5%. So let's talk a little bit about how important it is for you to fully be moved on December 1. Or do you want to split up the family? Tell me what your options are. I'm here to get you part of the 38 versus being part of the 6, which, by the way, were the expired and withdrawn. Okay, now the closed is what it is. That's probably 45 days ago data. But look at 3% of the market expired. I don't think, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we can be part of that discussion, right? I mean, you got the job. We need to move. So I've got to be very careful that I don't let you dip into the expired withdrawn category that's going to cause challenge with our move date. 75 days on market. I forget who was mentioning. We can't wait 75 days. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it based on what you shared with me as far as your urgency. So when we're going over the CMA here in a minute, what I want to make sure of is that we stay in the, what do we get? The 16.5% of the market that went pending last week. I've got to keep you at that end of the spectrum. We'll go over that when we look at the CMA. They may sit there and go, oh my God, 75 days, that's not going to work. I said, doesn't sound like it. But look at how many price reductions we had. 13% of the marketplace reduced their prices last week. This just goes to show you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the competition that we're currently facing. Every day, 31 people, just if we were on the market last week, may have edged out their visibility in the market space. Now, I want to show you a client of mine that has become obsessed. And by the way, I track this every week with the clients that I was coaching back when I was. So I want to show you, this is a client out of North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, and they became habitual around tracking their 7 market stats. I mean, I can go, look at all these years. By the way, this is really great for research. But if you look at, and then they highlight highs and lows, I haven't coached these people for 8 months. They're still highlighting, we were at 16.95. We're up a little bit. Could be a new, well, it's not a new high, just looking back here. But I mean, look at new listings, boom. That looks like a high over the last little bit. 91 pendings looks like they're going through a price reduction. Look at this, 211 price reductions. So you can start to make the correlation as to why we had 91 pendings in a week versus 76.64. So that looks like a high watermark late in September. So this is where I want you to become as a professional in this market. Know it like the back of your hand. It starts with just a simple weekly plugging in of the stats. And when you get to this level, that market is going to start to evolve and become very clear to you. Okay, comments, thoughts, questions on these stats?
So Fritz, I got a question.
How you doing?
Doing good. So you got all these different areas that you're keeping stats on. How do you have time to do all of that?
It's a great point. And by the way, I remember
if we're just doing one area, I can see it. But yeah.
Yeah, because we did your presentation for your group a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We have all these little towns, and I'm sure other people do too. So we have Rapid City, we have all these other little towns, and each one is a little bit different. Even different communities can be different. So if we're really trying to do ourselves a service, keeping track of all these different areas, unless I'm not doing it right, just seems like more work than I have time in a day for.
Yeah. So let me get to that. So number one, we set up the search parameters and we save them in the MLS so that it is a auto, like, they used to fill this in on Monday morning before our coaching call. Their staff input the numbers. They had a lot of this saved in the MLS. They would just change the date, spit them all out. So having staff do it and understand what this is obviously one critical step. We just came out of the AI presentation yesterday. I think we can get AI doing a lot of these repetitive tasks so that these charts are created for us automatically, almost. We always want to review the data. I was even digging around, which is why we were kind of slow in getting the slide set up. I was literally a few minutes before we came on live getting some of this data because we were struggling with, oh my God, an expired or withdrawn. So it's definitely a staff person. It may be AI in the future, and it's definitely saving it in the MLS so that it's a hit the button and update. But I will tell you, spending a little bit of time around just pulling the data is also you learning the market, and you're starting to see the changes as they're unfolding. That's why Matt and Molly would highlight in yellow. Sometimes it was red, sometimes it was green, because they were learning as they were pulling, and they were seeing those variations in the flexibility. I literally, this becomes a few minutes a day, like on one day, just a few minutes, get the updates, throw them in the chart. And then it may be, I'd get together with a group in the office and analyze and break it down. Hey, what do you guys see here? Get the team together. Does that help a little bit, Arnie? Okay, now let's talk about AI. Take your stats and run them through AI. And of course, prompting is critical. So what patterns do you see? We call our Sparky here at the Coaching Nexus. Sparky, what patterns do you see? What might be missing or worth tracking? What listings might need a different approach? We even heard yesterday using AI to not promote the property with its current features and benefits, but to do it through the lens of the buyer that may like that set of features and benefits. The other great prompt that I've heard a lot of listing agents using, hey, Sparky, what am I missing as you load the stats into the process? So I think there's an AI solution around here in making the stat collection easy. You guys can be teaching me that as you master that skill. Okay, now we talked about this pretty much at every mastermind that I do. You have a downloadable option. And Shelby, let's see, is that on the next slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Next slide.
Okay. So we talked about this last week. Here's your 4-category listing evaluation spreadsheet. You literally put the property down the left-hand side. You choose on these 4 questions how this property rates. What is the seller's motivation on a scale of 1 to 10? Find the drop-down number that applies and pick it. What's the price that would cause it to sell today? I don't want the seller's input on this. I want this to be your unbiased view of the price that would cause it to sell today. Condition of the property, scale of 1 to 10, 10 is model perfect. What is the condition? Be critical here. Don't sugarcoat. If you're sugarcoating, pick the lower number. Well, I think it's a 7. It's probably a 6. And then accessibility of the property. That property needs to be mint condition, showable 24/7, easy to access. If the seller is putting restrictions on you, it's not helping your cause. Buyers have too many things to look at today. That's part of what you can brief them on when you take the listing. Now, Shelby's got this thing set up where it sorts. Your most motivated, most ready to sell will sort to the top. Those are the ones you want to start working on for price reductions. These that are at the bottom, you might be having a different conversation. So the chart helps you sort and make better decisions. Play around with it. Get good using it. If you are in a team setting, I'd probably go over all my active listings with the team, get their way in, and make it a group project. And there you can scan. I'll give everyone a second to be able to scan that chart. It really is a game changer when you can start to have kind of emotionally disconnected tools helping you. All right. Now we're going to go through some quick scripts and we'll wrap it up. So one of the things that I did, and I was telling someone at the mastermind, I literally dug out notes from 2009, a seminar that I was at that primarily was only on pricing and price reductions. What you're going to see is a set of scripts that we covered during that event. One of the things one of the agents from the stage said, you've got to let the client know based on the stats from our MLS that we know to be true. I'm not pulling this stuff out of thin air. We're pulling it from a base of stats that we know to be true. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand your frustration. Let's understand your neighbor sold below what you thought they should have. Your neighbor's not at fault. The market is at fault. Sometimes we have to put in context what is really happening versus what the seller's opinion is of what's happening. The market is at fault. Okay. Script 3. Love this one. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand you've done a lot of upgrades. It is definitely a beauty contest when we compete against all the active inventory, but we must also understand it is a pricing war. We've got to win both categories. Especially when, remember I said, your competition is your active listings, not the sold closed. That's the old market. It's beauty contest and pricing war. This is a classic one. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, buyers are coming to see your beautiful home, yet in the feedback that I'm getting, they're not seeing the value. But, you know, I understand. A lot of upgrades. They're just not seeing the value. Let's take a look at the market stats and the CMA again. What is it telling us? It becomes very consultant based. Okay. This is a good one. If you knew your home would be worth 600 in October, would you take 650 today? Now I get it. October's next month. Probably leave about a 3-4 month gap in between whatever you're saying, but this is very powerful in a market that's continuing to soften. If you knew your home would be worth 600 in December, would you take 650 today so that you could get to your new job December 1? Now you're back to that urgency again, always going back to the unpacking of urgency. Something that we learned from some mastermind feedback. When talking to a buyer, we use the terminology price reduction. When speaking to a seller, it's a price correction. Or sometimes I used to call it a price improvement. Not increase, we're improving the price in the market space. Now, when we're dealing with the CMA presentation, remember I discussed here a moment ago, you've got to practice your CMA presentation separate from your listing presentation. I love this 3-tiered approach to bracketing price. You're going to take 3 comps. One is going to be better, one is going to be not as nice, and one is going to be a true comparative comp. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's lay out the pricing range that we're seeing in your community. Boom, you put the nicer home out there. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this home is nicer than yours. You're setting that high water bookend, extra bath, larger lot, more square footage. Then we put in the lower bookend. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this home is not as nice as yours. So you kind of take them through the emotion of, oh man, I was thinking we'd be way above that on the high end. Whoa, that home isn't anywhere near mine. Yes, but it's still sold in your community. So that's the low water mark. And then the middle one is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this home is just like yours. It really helps you set the tone without offending and without asking the seller, well, what do you think we can get? And then you're 100 grand off right out of the gate. This sets some nice bookends to keep it within a realistic range. And then take your sellers to the competition. I would probably try to get the listing signed. And if you're just working through price, take them to look at the competition so they see it and sense it and feel it and get to walk through it. Now, this is going back. This is a little bit dated, but earlier in the year, we were seeing active listings were getting a 60% of the overall inventory was getting a price reduction, and we were starting to see 40% that were getting 2. I would not worry about this. I would go right back to the price reductions in the market that you serve and show it as part of your stats and show the movement of it. To be honest with you, in Flower Mound, somebody's been doing some pricing work there to get 38 under contract, literally almost 17% of the market a week ago. Somebody was doing some work there, but you probably see it if you were tracking it week over week in the price reductions. Okay. So let's look at our leveling up of our skills. We got to practice and role play digging for urgency. Figure out the strategy and system. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's a staff member, maybe it's saving a lot of the areas you serve in the MLS. Run them through AI to strengthen your dialogue and presentation of those stats. Use that listing evaluation spreadsheet weekly, and then role play your CMA portion of your presentation separately and get good at just that part of it, because that may be the deciding factor in whether you take that listing. I'm going to come off share. I do want you to give us an idea of what you want covered next month. We're always looking to meet you where your need is. We've got a great staff of coaches that can present on many different topics. You just need to tell us what the topic is you need us to bring to the October Performance Series presentation. So if you could hit that scan, and then I'm going to come off of share and take questions. Okay, what did you hear today? What opened your mind to a new way of thinking? Where do I need to fill in some gaps? If you got to run, please run. If not, I'm going to stay on as long as we need to.
Fritz, you may or may not have an answer to this. Do you know in the MLS if it's capable of running more than one at a time? Like you did Flower Mound, but could you simultaneously have Frisco or, like we're down here in Ellis County, multiple ones running, or would you just need to reset the data to check each one each week?
And by the way, it's been many, many decades since I have been on an MLS deep into it. So I will tell you what we were doing years ago. In some of these cases, we actually had to reach out to the MLS and say, can we run this stat? Because sometimes it wasn't that easy one to run, and we needed to get their input on this. So that was number one. All MLSs are different. You need to find out if it's even capable to pull that data. What we ended up being able to do is we could actually save each run that we wanted. So as staff would open it up, they would just change the date, run. They would go to the next state saved category, county, city, whatever it is, change the date, run. So we were able to save the different cities and the different runs. By the way, you may even want to do a luxury one. You may want to have a move up one. So you can get super creative. Now, don't overwhelm the client. You need to be thoughtful around that. But we were even finding that, you could have a townhome. You could have, condos. You could have single family residence. It does need to be apples to apples when you're actually making a presentation. But in our world, we could set them all up as a saved category, because it would almost be like we were saving it for a client. So it's the Smiths run, it's the Johnsons runs, it's the Pollards run. And that way we could do it by city or search area. And then all we needed to do is change the date. We did have to adjust the date. Who knows today? Maybe it could even be more automated than that. Did I answer the question?
Super helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And that's where you have to get creative around what your MLS requires of you to get what you need. Meredith.
Okay, so when you say what is the price that this would sell for, like right now, how do you get that, and how far down do you go below active comps?
It's a great point. So that's what the stats are going to tell you. So let me go back to Flower Mound for just a minute. 231 active listings, 17 new on the market. Okay, 7.4% increase in just new inventory. That made sense. The leader that was getting me this data, when they gave me 38 pendings, I went, whoa. That tells me that Flower Mound market There is a demand in that market that showed up, that wrote an offer and went under contract. That gives me hope. That's the demand side of this supply demand discussion. So if I'm now to go to my active inventory versus pending, I'm going to say there's a buyer demand there that's real. So I might feel a little bit more confident to list closer to the sale, especially given features, benefits, location, than I would be if that was a single digit number pending. Let's say that was an 8, not 38. I'm all of a sudden going, man, and by the way, I'm a high C. I can get geeked out on this all day long. So my high C is going only 8 sales with 31 price reductions. We still have agents hunting for the market. What I'm going to tell you is I'll bet you there's a lot of price reductions preceding those 38. And there's demand there when that listing price is right. So Meredith, I'm probably going to creep a little bit closer to that last sale, but I'm going to tell the seller in words they need to hear, if we don't get an offer though, within 14 days, we're back at this table diving into this, because you got to be December 1 in Ohio. Urgency, urgency, urgency. They are going to hear me say that almost every time we have a communication.
Okay.
Because if I'm wrong, I want the opportunity to pivot and not have to own a price. That's the mistake I think a lot of us are making. We owned the price we went in with. We eliminated the competition based on it, and now we're dragging it around like an anchor around our neck. But do you understand what I just did there with the stats? I think I feel confident that 38 people bought last week. I'm going to probably be a little bit more lenient on closer to the last comp.
Okay.
Great question. Anyone else?
Patricia asked for those slides, you guys. I just dropped them in the chat. So if you want a copy of the slides, they're a downloadable PDF in the chat. And Kathy has a question in the chat. I missed the part of the conversation where the QR code, as I had to take an important call. Oh yes, Kathy. So grab the PDF out of the chat, and you'll be able to get that QR code again.
Is that for the listing evaluation or next month's topic?
She doesn't specify in the chat. Kathy, are you still with us, or did you drop?
While I'm taking questions, this is for the listing evaluation chart.
Okay, she says she got it.
Okay, good, good. Okay, what else, gang? Okay, while we're thinking, I know the topic of giving listings back is like, oh my God, I'm a salesperson. I've never given a deal back. You go through the market. I went back in the mid 90s. I remember vividly on a 1-bedroom condo, I did the net sheet and I said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, to price this thing to sell, it was their very first home as newlyweds. 1-bedroom condo, 780 square feet. Did the net sheet. You are going to have to bring in $30,000 to close this. This was before the short sale days. This is when we didn't know that, oh my God, let the bank take it back. I'll never forget that 2 of them looked at each other. One of them got up and they got their checkbook. They came back and they said, we have the money in savings. It broke my heart. I said, do you want to list today and let's get you out of this? They said, yes. They literally brought in a check for 30 grand to close that deal. Now, here's the way we framed it. Just think of the price flexibility you're going to get in your next property and the experience that you went through that someone else will have to go through too. And they go, okay, let's do it. So I knew I wasn't going to take that overpriced, but I also needed to tell them this is what was the consequence of the market being at fault. And I knew the market so well. I happened to live in this particular complex when I was single. So again, We have big responsibility in this market. Own it. Own the responsibility and get good at the skill of presenting your CMA, discussing pricing objections, and digging deep for urgency. And you will literally look at this as an opportunity to be the pro that's needed, not just the agent winging it and hoping for a good result. Own this market and get so good at it, it's almost like a game. And by the way, the listing you walk away from, there's a dozen more out there that need you. Don't look at the one, look at the dozen you need to go get. Somebody needs your professional skills because the listing agent they listed with didn't provide that level of communication. We do owe our clients truth and honesty in this market, even if it hurts. All right. You all good? Now go do something with this. Go get someone that was on this call in your market center and go, let's once a week go over those objections. Let's role play that CMA. Let's role play digging deep on urgency. I'd love to hear your testimonials. Get ready. We're going to scan the topic you need for next month, and we're going to bring it to you in October. Appreciate you all. Have a great end of your week. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Fritz. Thanks, Shelby.
Take care.
Thanks, Fritz.
Goodbye.